Thank you, Rachel. That was great. Rachel has a nice self-leadership toolkit. We're going to be using a little different type of toolkit. Who wants to volunteer to be my hero? Thanks for volunteering. You're going to be my hero during this discussion. Need another assistant. Ryan, you're conveniently in eyesight, so put it together quite yet.
What you go into doing that building if she's the hero?
Yeah. No, you're not. I would not be.
You can be a coach.
Okay, so question for everybody in the room. How many of you came with a partner today? Now, I don't mean your business partner. That's boring. I mean a partner. Oh, well, that's interesting. How many came with a phone today? See where this is going?
I do?
Yeah. That's funny, because this is your partner. Now, some of you have two partners. Maybe some of you have three partners, in which case I want to talk later, because that's going to be interesting. But keep in mind, this is your partner. I read somewhere, this actually came out of University of Liverpool, the average person touches their phone 2,000 times per day. Wow. How many times do you touch your other partner? And how much attention do you pay to your other partner compared to this? Not judge it, right? We're all in the same boat. So I want you to think about this as we go through this presentation. You see some of the timings, some of the stats I'm going to show you. Economist Robert Solow said this back in the 80s. Basically what he said is, what we do, the technology that we do, the technology that I've been doing for the past 41 years, it doesn't show up in productivity. And what he was talking about was something he called the productivity paradox. What he means by that is the stuff that we do in IT, it has this weird way of not moving the needle in productivity standpoint. This is Fred. If you're not familiar with Fred is a great tool. I suggest you get familiar with it. It's from Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. And this shows productivity ups and downs over the last, what is that, since 1950?
70 years.
Right, and it's pretty level. You can see it kind of levels out over time. There's one spike during the pandemic. That doesn't count because we changed the denominator. Not that many people were working. Here's another easier way to look at it. So despite all this technology we've deployed, we're still stuck in this kind of around 1.9% a year productivity growth. John Maynard Keynes said this, almost 100 years ago now, that in 100 years, everybody in this room would be working 15 hours a week. Anybody doing this? Anybody working 15 hours a week, get paid like you're working full-time? No. In 1950, we were working 38 hours a week. Today, we're working 34 hours a week. Hardly any difference. I don't think we're going to make it by 2030. But even if you could, would you like to go on LinkedIn and brag about it? You say, look, hey man, it's Tuesday morning, I'm out on my yacht, I'm killing it. No, of course you wouldn't. Why? Because I don't think that's the way we're wired in this country. When the Europeans decided they were to come here, who did they say? They said frickin' Puritans. You know what Puritans believe in? Just as a reminder, this is Puritanism. The haunting fear that someone, somewhere, be happy. We cannot have that. This tells a story. Every country in the world almost has mandated vacation days. You don't see people protesting in the street about mandated vacation days. It's just not important to us as a society. So am I saying technology is bad? No, of course not. Technology is great. Look at these two lines on the graph. The green line is the global poverty rate normalized. Down, down, down. What's the blue line? Well, that's energy consumption going up, up, up. What's energy consumption a proxy for? You want to take a guess? Or technology adoption. Right. So technology is doing a lot of good in the world. It's not showing up in productivity, though. And why is that? Why don't we all have our supercars? I don't have mine. Why aren't we out on a yacht somewhere instead of saying, okay, it's a really nice room, Doug, but why are we sitting here instead of being there.
Karen, was that cool?
Well, part of it is something that Malcolm Gladwell called consuming the advantage. Gartner's got a more boring tape on it. It's called productivity leakage or whatever. So, but I like consuming the advantage better. So the classic example of consuming the advantage is when you buy a new house. Your house has got too small, there's too much junk in it, you got more kids. So you buy a bigger house. What happens almost immediately? Anyone?
Buy more stuff.
You stuff it full of more crap. That's exactly what happens. On a more serious note, let's look at consuming the advantage at car accidents. So this is car crash fatality rate, 100 million vehicle miles traveled. Look at how it's dropped. Look at all the safe, you could track 1990s, all the safety devices that came in, and on brakes, right, airbags, all that stuff. Around 2010, it starts to level out. And then it starts to go up again. What happened around 2010? Right, exactly this. We've consumed the advantage. We've gave back 3,000 deaths per year from distracted driving. And if you look into the NISTA database and you look at this data, make no mistake, this isn't people reaching for coffee. 3,000 people a year are dying because somebody's eating their cell phone. That's exactly what that is. We took the advantage that the technology gave us and we consumed it. Another way we do that is friction. So let me give you an example of what friction is. I test this outlet, so we'll see what happens. This drill is 40 years old. Who in here thinks it's going to work when I pull the trigger? Yeah, most of you think it's going to work. And of course it will. Why? It's a brick with a motor. It's going to work. It's going to work practically forever. How about this? Ryan, hold up the drill without the battery. Who thinks it's going to work when he pulls the trigger? No. Why? There's no battery in it. You put the battery in? Don't pull the trigger. Just slide the battery in there. Okay, now who thinks it's going to work? The battery's charged. Okay. Okay, well, the battery happened to be charged. Okay, so we added a little friction to the drilling experience. It's not a big deal, right? Just got to make sure the battery's in there. So as long as you keep the battery charged, you're good for, what, maybe 10 years? What happens after 10 years?
Battery dies.
Yeah, the new battery as you did on the drill.
Yeah, the battery is now gone. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to go to Home Depot, right? You go up and replace the battery, but they don't make that battery anymore. So now not only do you have to buy a battery, you need 2 batteries, by the way. You've got to have 2. You have to buy a new tool. So you've increased the friction a little more. Okay, Len, I get it. I'll just make sure I have new batteries. It's still worth it, whatever. Now we're done. Not exactly, because now what are you going to do with these batteries? You got to get rid of them. Can you put them here?
Nope.
Absolutely not, right? They're lithium ion. Can you put them here? No. No, hell no. What are you going to do with them? You got to take them to a special facility, right, where the friendly people will help you recycle your batteries. So let's look at this. Let's say that this thing is going to last another 40 years, which I think is a pretty good bet. So what's going to happen over those 80 years? When you're going to buy 8 of these drills, you're going to buy 16 batteries versus 1 of these and all the friction that goes along with that. Cost-wise, in today's dollars, that thing's $39.97. Probably been $39.97 forever. Almost $3,000 you're going to spend on replacing those drills. Now, is anybody going to go out and throw away all of these and pick up power drills that work with a cord? Hell no, right? Because it's worth the squeeze. We love those things. So the juice is worth the squeeze. We're willing to accept that friction. We're willing to give up a little bit of that advantage because to us, this is worth it. Let's look at another piece of friction involving power tools. So, 1987, January, Space Shuttle Challenger sitting on the launch pad. It's a beautiful, sunny, nice temperature Florida day. Everything's ready to go. The crew's ready to go. The orbiter's ready to go. It's full of fuel. There's just one thing left to do before they could close up the hatch and go. If you look closely here, in the little orange box I made, there's a hammy. That handle has to come off of that hatch. It's temporary before the shuttle can lift off. But there's a problem. The handle has been torqued on too hard. They can't get it off with the tools they have up in the waiting room at the launch pad. No problem. Okay, well, launch window's starting to close here, but there's a ready crew that's got power tools that could come and get that thing off. So the ready crew comes up, gets up to the top of the launch pad, they pull out all their fancy power tools. What do you think is going to happen? Anybody have a guess?
Where's batteries now?
Right. Now, and these probably weren't, whatever that was, $100 at Home Depot or Lowe's. These are probably $1,000 worth of power tools, and every single one had a dead battery. Friction. And now the launch window is really getting tight. What the hell are they going to do? They can't get this thing off. So what do? They call a normal maintenance person out at NASA. That person has to drive over to the launch pad. They get to the launch pad. They can't go up because they don't have security clearance. Eventually, they get that straightened out. Guy goes up, looks at the problem. Teresa pulls out one of those, and in today's dollars, takes that to a $7 billion orbiter and hacksaws the handle off of the thing, slams the hatch door shut. They're ready to go. Thank you. Right? Our hero, everybody clap for except there's one small problem. The launch window was closed. So now what do we do? Well, we've cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. And we have to delay to the next day. The next day, as it turns out, is very, very cold. And everybody knows what happens to the Challenger on that day. It was so cold, the O-rings between the booster segments failed, shuttle blew up and crashed, right? 7 astronauts dead. Millions of school children watched the teacher in space die right in front of their faces. Was this because of power tools? Primary cause of this was, for certain, the O-rings in the shuttle were not qualified to fly in cold weather. The secondary cause was the bolts were put on too tight, so somebody didn't follow the directions. Tertiary cause, though, was dead batteries and power tools. So, this is from Valve magazine. Bolting is important and did contribute to this horrible accident. So, now that's a pretty extreme example, but it's an example of friction. Okay, let's switch to consuming the advantage. Bullshit jobs. David Graeber in his book Bullshit Jobs describes jobs that actually don't do anything to help advance the corporate mission. I'm pretty sure nobody in here has a bullshit job, mostly because most of you are in tech. I am, but I don't have a bullshit job. But here's a good example. Anybody in here in security? I thought I heard the word CISO or whatever. Nobody? You're back in a minute now. Okay, so, but everybody here is engaged from time to time in bullshit work. And here's a prime example of bullshit work. And what is this? It's multi-factor authentication. Okay, so think about what we did here, right? We deployed this technology, and then we have like the unmitigated gall to say, well, hey, our employees that are trying to sell product, trying to get revenue out the door, or in the door, our employees are our weakest link. Really, what kind of crap is that? Right, what we did is we deployed this technology dilly-willy, and now we have to protect ourselves from it. Yes. Anybody remember before Office Productivity Suites? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I do. And I remember the first time I saw like Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or whatever it was, and somebody, the trainer, whoever was doing it, came up to me and he or she said, "This is great. This is great. Instead of like taking your stuff to Melody now, and Melody like helping you do your memos, and Melody helping you do your slides, you can do it all yourself." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks a lot." I thought my job was writing programs, but apparently now my job is also writing bad memos and doing ugly PowerPoint slides. So, what happened to all the Melodies in the meantime? right? Most of them are gone, right? And here's the irony. I don't remember, I'll track a little bit here, but I remember at the time that a lot of women were saying, well, women don't really want these jobs, right? These jobs are beneath women. We want women to have higher order jobs. But you know what we did is we wiped out a whole segment of good paying jobs. I mean, these are great jobs, right? All you need is a high school diploma. You need to be kind of clever. You need to be quick on your feet. You need to have good people skills, and then you got good benefits. So we just took that whole swath of jobs, wiped them out of the economy, and then we told ourselves, hey, what a great thing this is. We eliminated all the lowest paid people in the organization. And we took all that work and put it onto people that were compensated much more highly. So did we gain from having office productivity suites? Yes. Did we consume some of that advantage? We absolutely did. Okay. Another way, distractions. So if we're going to talk about distractions, we have to talk about the internet. And if this is the queen of dragons, then the internet is the queen of distractions. If you were to set out to invent a medium that would rewire our mental circuits, blah, 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 you'd wind up with something that looked like the internet.
What?
Right. So what's this number represent? Anybody want to guess? $250 billion? What do we spend $250 billion on? Anybody guess?
Lost productivity.
What's that?
Lost productivity.
Well, it's got a loss, yeah, but it's not productivity. $250 billion a year, $250 billion a year, to protect ourselves from the internet. That's what we spend on security, protect ourselves from the internet, and it's not enough. It's not like everybody's safe now, right? Companies still getting hacked, government's getting hacked, right? But we're spending $250 million a year. Can you imagine the boardroom presentation if we had thought this all through like 40 years ago maybe? Hey, we got this great technology, everybody's going to communicate with each other, it's going to be great, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, we're going to have to spend somewhere in the order of 10 to $15 trillion over the next 40 years to protect ourselves from it. I don't know. Does that sound like it's going to come to the cost of capital? I don't think so. Right. So the point is, we deployed the technology without really thinking about what we were doing, and now, okay, great, we get toilet paper overnight. We were spending $250 billion a year to protect ourselves from the media that delivers it. Now, am I saying the internet is a bad thing? Of course not. The internet is great. Think of all the breakthroughs we've had, but think about the cost. Think about the productivity that it's taken away from us as well. Is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to the internet? I don't know. Jury's still out. And you'll understand a little bit more why the jury's still out as we go through this presentation. The internet can produce both acute and sustained alterations in specific areas of the brain, right? It affects attentional capacities, memory processes, and social interactions. I'll just leave that there for a minute. Over the past decade, time spent in meetings has increased by 8 to 10%. 83% of employees spend up to a third of their weeks in meeting, and almost half of them think the meetings are a waste of time. Sound familiar? I don't know, too quick. So why do you think that we're all these meetings all of a sudden? Technology. We lowered the burden to set up a meeting. I mean, in the past, hey, Melody would take care of that, right? They had to go through Melody to set up a meeting with me or with you or whoever, and Melody knew what our schedules were like. She knew if we were too busy that week. She knew if we were on deadline, so we just asked her, but no, Melody is not. So now, our calendars are an open book to the world. People look at our calendars and they see free time, and they just assume, well, that means you're not busy. Excuse me. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So you would wind up with calendars that look like this. And I can tell you, this is a calendar of a person that unless their job is, going to meetings, they're not getting anything done. And if they're getting it done, they're getting it done in the evening because there's absolutely no time in here to focus on anything meaningful. I don't even know when they go to the restroom. So that person's job is meeting. He wants meeting to be your job as well. Okay, email. I call email the assignment generator. because anybody could send you an email and automatically assign you work. I mean, literally anybody in a corporation, right? If they have your email address, they can assign you work. I mean, everybody's had something like this. You're busy doing something, you're on deadline, whatever, and you get this email that says, I'm going to need this spreadsheet filled out by Friday, and I need you to fill out all this stuff, and can you get it to me by Thursday afternoon so that I could cover my ass before the big shots see it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. In a world, I sound like the movie guy, right? In a world where justice prevail, what would be the correct answer to that? Piss off, right? I'm busy here. But the worst one, the things that are worse though, are the ones that are like nice, right? Oh, hi, I know you're busy. Hate to do this to you, but I really need this by Friday. If you don't mind getting around to it, if you got any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Double piss off. Come on. The correct answer to this, in any really high-functioning organization, should be, let me check with the person that assigns my work. Let me check with my boss and see what she or he says. Or, better yet, gold star answer, why don't you check with my boss and see what they say? Right? I mean, and that sounds like, the crazy thing is, when you say it a little bit, it sounds kind of passive-aggressive. But it's not. It's just normal behavior. I got assignments to do, and now you want to take you want to take me off with them. Don't you think I need to check in with the person that's depending on me to get stuff done, with the person that assigns my work? It's just another part of distracting behavior. And we have this culture of connectivity. And what does this number represent? 32, and you're going to laugh when I say this, because it's low. That's the number of emails each of us gets a day at work. Right. Okay, right? It's insanely low. But you know what? It was the lowest estimate I can find, and I don't need a high number. And you're going to see why in a minute. But just keep 32 in your mind. You don't have to remember it. I'll remember it for you. But what's 21? Again, it's insanely low. It's number of chats that the average person gets a day. A little thing at the bottom lights up, says, oh, somebody has an instant message for you. They expect it to answer immediately, and you've got to drop everything you're doing and answer it. And back to our friend here, the cell phone. If you could invent a device that could rewire your minds and encourage self-absorption, reduce empathy, redraw the lines of social etiquette, do they sound like they may be on point a little here with the cell phone or the mobile phone? Anybody think that? Yeah. It would look a lot like a smartphone. 57% of Americans say they're addicted to their mobile phones. Now, I showed this to a friend at work, and she just laughed and said, yeah, the other 43% are liars. There's something to that. Anybody had this?
Yes.
Where is it? A little bit of panic sets it. Where the heck is it? Right? That's addictive behavior. That's addiction. Right? You're looking for the dopamine hit. You can't have your dopamine hit if it's not there. And I'll tell you what addiction, it's all the same. Your brain doesn't care what you're addicted to. Or your body might, right? Because drugs will destroy your body. But your brain only knows whatever it is, I need it. It's dopamine. And dopamine is the center of all addiction. So when we talk about cell phone addiction, we're not talking about, she's always on her phone, or he's always on. No, it is truly an addiction, like any other addiction, and it's just as hard to break as any other addiction. This is socializing. Now, okay, it's kind of cute because they're touching, you can tell they're besties and all that stuff. But, they're having this sort of shared experience where they're looking at their phones, looking at different things. Anybody got teenage boys?
Yes.
Okay, so being a teenage boy at one time myself, this may not be the worst thing that happens to teenage boys, right? So at least they're not taking apart somebody's house, but still, right? They're definitely not talking to each other. And then there's this kind of behavior, right? In traffic, on their phone, can't put it down. Average phone pickups per day, 45 to 300. That's the range of estimates you get. Average Gen Z phone pickups per day, 74. I couldn't even find the high numbers, just like off the charts. 55% of these are during the workday. So we'll take 24. right? We'll take the low number, 55% is 24. Okay, so what do we have here? If you remember, we're playing along, 32 emails, 21 chats, and then the 24 phone pickups. That is 77 distractions during the course of the day. And now here's where the real math comes in. It takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to regain full focus after a distraction. So that's the cost of 30 seconds of looking at your phone. And don't make the mistake of saying, well, Glenn, I'll right back at it in a minute after I look at my phone. No, you're not. You aren't focused in the first place. That's the damn problem. Right? So, seriously, there are people that have probably gone through years of their life without ever knowing what deep focus is, without ever really engaging in deep work. You know how I can tell I'm focused? I was at home too often. But I can tell I'm focused when I'm in the middle of doing something and somebody comes in and interrupts it, and I'm like, oh, damn it, right? I was focused, and now I'm not focused anymore. So that's one trigger for me that tells me when I was focused. So doing the math, right? 77, that's 23 minutes, 29 hours a day. The hell is going on here? Work is getting done, right? It's just not getting done very effectively. Think about that. People are working and they are not fully focused. You're not getting the best out of your team. You're maybe not getting the best out of yourselves. I'm not pointing fingers. I mean, yeah, I've got one of these. I've got the same issue as everyone else. What's the balance that we have to use?
What's the name of the new event?
That's like revenge. Shut up. Okay, let's talk about social media. We're talking about distraction. We haven't even talked about social media, right? People supposedly check their social media 15 times a day. 55% of these are at work. Okay, so I checked with some of my Gen Z pals and said, does that sound to you? 15 times a day. And they said, whoever gave you that number is delusional. It's more than 15 times an hour. I mean, you've seen it. You've been in line somewhere at a store where the clerk is like, hi, can I help you? Right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you see it work too. People typing, looking at their phones, typing, looking at their phones. I'm not sure what the upper limit here is. I'm not even sure there is one. So what's going on? All right. Now some people, but I left it alone because there's absolutely no upside to argue with anybody on LinkedIn. But their premise was, well, people are just getting better at switching, right? Our brains are evolving, we're coming back. Yeah, our brains are evolving, all right. So this is a study. Everybody in their mother signed on to this study. And if you only remember two words from this quote, remember worse and cognitive. And the question I have for you, especially if you have children, do you want the words worse and cognitive ever associated with your children? So I ask, what are you doing with your smart devices? What are you using it for a babysitter? Is that really what you want to be doing? Again, I know sometimes it's pot called the kettle black. We're all in this problem together, trying to figure it out. But I'd like you to think about what we're doing to our own minds, but what we're doing to our children's minds as well. So, if you look at all these social media sites, they all have the same exact mission statement, right? It may be longer, it may be wrapped around some other crap, but it all says the same thing, right? Blah, blah, something, something, community. What everybody knows is there's nothing that builds a community better than getting it to hate on another committee. And this is intentional. I may have heard the term enragement equals engagement. Right? This is social media marketing 101. Their job, because remember, you're the product, their job is to keep you on the platform. They need your eyes on the platform. They need your brains on the platform. And the best way to do that, they know, is to get you pissed off. And that's going to keep you engaged on the platform, right? Get the juices flowing. You're going to be there. In the old days, we talked on the telephone, right? If you weren't around, you've probably seen old pictures, right? The extension cord, the phone extension going down the hallway, right? Underneath the door. Somebody was on the phone, right, for all evening. You know, father, mother, whoever is screaming, get off the damn phone. You know, but the difference here is there wasn't somebody on the other end that uses an algorithm that knew the way your brain worked that was trying to manipulate you to stay on that phone. 89% of Americans check their phone within the first 10 minutes of getting up each day. And what are they seeing? Nothing good, right? They're seeing the news feed. Oh my God, I had to turn off Apple News because the Apple News feed was just like one calamity after another. I mean, it was like empathy overload. At some point, you just shut down. But it was like, I mean, this is like, just why don't you just tell me the world sucks? So your employees are seeing this, and then they're coming to work. Now, people used to get mad all the time, and still do, about all kinds of things, right? Traffic was bad, some idiot cut me off, had a fight with my teenage daughter, you know, whatever it was. Now you're at work, you're a little bit pissed off. The difference is, it wasn't an existential threat. So they're coming into work worried about what's going on in Gaza. They're worried about starving children. They're worried about people they don't even know somewhere else in the world whose parent is in the hospital. And like all this stuff adds up. And now you say, hi, can you take a few minutes today to fill out the employee survey? How do you think that's going to go? So what do you do about this? How is any work getting done? So this is where leadership comes in. We've got to lead. We're all leaders. We're leaders at work. We're leaders in home. We're leaders in our churches. We're leaders with our children, wherever we are. So let's talk a little bit about policy. I'm just kidding. Let's not talk about policy. Is anybody here tried to tell an alcoholic they shouldn't drink anymore? I have. It doesn't work, right? Policy is not going to work. You're not going to be able to policy your way out of this. You can't say, well, I'm going to shut off, you know, all the social media on our work site because you know what? I don't need social media at work to check my phone all day. Right? I've got cellular service on my phone, so I can do whatever I want. So can everybody else. So here's 3 actions that I'd like you to take away with you today. 1, on your phone, turn off notifications everywhere. There's no reason you need a notification on your phone. Maybe you need a text messaging, whatever you decide, but wherever you can turn off notifications, not on your phone, on your PC. Do you really need that blinking light showing up every time somebody sends you a chat at work? Turn off the notification. Remove social media from your phone. I've got it all off my phone, except for LinkedIn. Sometimes I wish LinkedIn wasn't there either. And run your phone in Do Not Disturb mode. You can run your phone in D&D mode forever. And what you do is, you know who's important, you know who needs to reach you, you make sure they're in bypass, and you just leave it that way. Maybe one day you're expecting a call for you're not sure of the number, fine, take it off. But it allows everybody to leave a voicemail message for you if it's really important. And you know what happens? 99.99999% of them won't leave a voicemail message. It's because it wasn't that important to begin with. Here are some other things that you could do. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will mention practicing asynchronous communication. And basically, that's just a fancy way of saying, check your email when you're ready to check your email. Right? You don't have to check it constantly in case there's something there. You don't have to check those chats constantly in case something's there. So I'll let you take those with you. The good thing about the ones in red here is that people will actually see those. They will notice those. And Doug will give you these slides so that you have that and take that away with you. So here's the 10 actions that you can start doing today. Here's my list of sources. Doug will give you that as well if you want to see where some of this research came from. And here's all my contact information. If you hit the QR code, you'll get out to my blog, and you can sign up for that. So anyway, thank you very much.
Yay!